Okay, so today I am going to show how to create a flipbook style VFX animation. So what is the use of this? Especially when you can normally do just a summon weapon, if you want to do like a creature, something that does more advanced animations. Um, so the use of this is when you don't have a summon weapon, when you don't want to do a summon weapon, um, or when there's some limitations for a summon weapon that you want to get around, like its ability to be bound to certain things, or be bound to the ground, or use certain binders, but also have a none setting in the visual effect so that it stays on the ground, but it's attached to the damage circle of the target rather than a bone of the target, which I'll show how to do. But I'm going to edit Black Mage's Blizzard spell and give it a fungal theme with this funguar creature. So I'm going to start with it, and I will save its model out here. Um, I will also select animations for it. I've already selected some. I already know which ones I want. So this is an animation for it where it just kind of headbutts a target, which I'm going to use for Blizzard. And I will go into Black Mage here. I've already set up a folder for it and chosen the animation. And then there's this other animation as well that I've chosen that I will use for Blizzard 2, where it kind of extends its arms out and makes them longer and spins. So go to Blizzard 2. And then also I need the monster.pap file. This is for the idle animation, so I can pull the idle. This is to give it some kind of buffer between appearing and disappearing, so the animation um, doesn't have to, like the animate, like the visual effect doesn't have to start the moment, or the animation doesn't start the moment that it appears. It has a few frames to appear and then has a few frames to disappear. And then, of course, I have to get the skeleton for it. So choose the skeleton, export that. And now I will go into Blender and I will start working on it. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import my model. And as you can see, this model is a single model. It's a single model part. It's not broken up into pieces. That makes this easier. Now, you probably can do a model that has several different pieces, and you can probably um, make it so that it's all one piece for a lot of creatures without too many issues. Most textures work fine. A lot of textures work like that, or work fine like that. Some creatures, though, you'll find are too advanced and too complex to do that with, and that can really limit things. Something to keep in mind is that visual effect files have a limit on the number of particles you can have, the number of models you can have, the number of emitters you can have. The limit is pretty high. It's a little over 100. I try to stay under 120 because I believe the limit is 124. I don't know why that's the number, but I try to keep it under 120. Now, to do a flip book animation, you have to have a model for each frame of the animation. So that greatly limits how many models and how long the animation in the visual effect can be. When you start adding more parts, so if you have two parts, well suddenly that 120 frames that can cover 4 seconds gets cut in half. Now you can only cover 2 seconds because now you have two models that you have to animate in this visual effect. Now you could maybe do a separate visual effect for that other part and then do 4 seconds for each. But then you have two visual effects that have to sync up perfectly, have to time perfectly. So doing a more simple creature like this is much more manageable. Or doing a creature where you can combine the models is much more manageable. And for this mod's purpose, this is perfect. I mean, a small creature, not small so much, it's not actually that small, but a nice creature, something simple like this for Blizzard is pretty neat. So to start making the animations, or the models that I need for the animation, I'm going to first, oh, I need to extract the animations first. So, go in here, and get the monster.pap file, and the skeleton. I will export the idle, and then I'll export the animation I'm going to use for Blizzard. And then I'm going to export the animation I'll use for Blizzard too. I'm just going to show Blizzard because this is going to be a long video. It's going to take quite a bit because there's a lot that has to be done here. But let's import my idle. Now, to link this animation to the monster, I will select the monster's skeleton that is currently linked to the model, and then shift and select the skeleton of the animation. I will Control L to link / transfer data, and I will choose link animation data. So now, why is that? Oof, that is not what I was expecting. I'm not sure what just happened. Let me try this again. That is the right skeleton. This is the monster.pap file from 003. Try this again. Okay, that looks different now. Okay, yeah, that's what I wanted. So I'll link that, animation. There we go. There's what I'm looking for. Mr. Jiggly. Okay, so I'll delete the animation I just imported. And go here. I'm going to also go ahead and clear these of any data. There we go. So now I have it idling. Next up, import Blizzard. Now this is the animation I'm going to use for Blizzard. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy it. Then I'm going to undo until before I imported it. It's not a super long animation, so it should fit within this idle animation here. Perfect. So it kind of headbutts. Now, what I'm going to do, I don't need that much animation going on, so I'm going to go ahead and trim some of this. And with that trimmed, I'll select this first 10, and I will do what's called smooth keys. This is just Alt-O Do that one or two times on this beginning 10. And I'll do it one or two times on the ending. This just smooths out the animation back from transitioning from the idle to the headbutt, back to the idle. And now I have my model animating in the animation in Blender. So how do I get this into the game? Fun time. This is where the fun times come in. So I'm going to select my model, go to this little wrench symbol right here. I've got add modifier, go to armature, add the armature, and then apply. Now it's broken, but it's still in that pose. And I did that to the last frame. I actually have to start at frame 1. So I'll do that again, armature, add armature, apply. And that is frame 1. So I'll go down here, export GLTF. I have one set up already for visual effect models. It is GLTF embedded. Here, there's a few settings that are set up here. Animation, shape keys, scanning, UVs, normals, tangents, vertex colors, Y up, all of that. This is the setup for it, for exporting a visual effect model. And this is just 0, 1. That is frame 1 of the flipbook visual effect. Now I will undo until I am before, go back to before I added the modifier so that it animates again. Go to the next frame. So frame 2, armature, apply, export GLTF. Now that is model 02. And I will keep on going. Armature, apply, export GLTF 03. And back up to 4. Armature, apply, export GLTF 04. Now it normally is going to keep the same settings that I'm exporting with, so I don't need to keep going up here to the drop down, but sometimes I just do it out of habit. And keep going. Armature, apply, export GLTF 05. Again, habit. Add armature, apply, export GLTF 06. Armature, apply, export GLTF 07. Okay, next frame, armature, apply, export GLTF 08. Armature, apply, export GLTF 09. Armature, apply, export GLTF 10. Okay, so you're getting the gist of it. Repeat that over and over until I have every single frame of every animation of the animation exported as GLTF files. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video right here, do the rest of them so I don't bore you with showing you all of them. Okay, back to it. So as you can see, I have exported all of the animations, or made all the models I need for this animation. So I'm done with that for now. Done with that too. I'm done with this. Alright, so now we're going to import this into a visual effect file. So because this is Blizzard, this is going to be for Blizzard. I'll just go to Blizzard, select the target, and I'm going to select one of the ones I've recently made. Just to quickly pull it, I'll show you the settings I have for it. So here's one I've already made. And I'll show you what the emitter looks like real quick. Here's first emitter, second emitter. It's the total frames or the total model count is 45 total. So 45 frames of animation. But I'm going to take this back down to a single frame, and I'll show you what, or a single model, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I'm just going to delete these. And get rid of all of these. Yada, yada, yada. And get rid of those quickly. All right. So I'm down to my single frame. This is the model for it. This is the texture that I imported. So let's grab the texture, the diffuse texture for the mushroom. And I'll go and save that here. And now I'm going to rename this. Go back and find my texture here. Mount 3. Okay, so there's the funguar texture. So here is the model for my model VFX particle. I'm going to replace that with the first model of my funguar. And let's go ahead and address the particle. So here are the settings for the particle that I have set up. I'll show you the rest. Just give you some moment to see what these all are, what it all looks like. So here's the rest of it. Alright. Here are the parameters that are set up for the first model. Fresnel curve. Very basic, set to white, nothing special here. Also set to white, nothing special. So for the first particle, I set the value for 2. Still, again, nothing special going on here. No scaling, no rotation, keeping this as simple as I can. Alpha set to 1, no scale, no random. Here are the UV settings. All of it is set to 1 for both X and Y. No random. Scroll is important. So this, if you don't fix your UVs with your model, you have to kind of adjust the UV settings for the model in the particle. So I find negative 0.5 and negative 0.5 on both X and Y tends to be the proper positioning. And that kind of, so here's like how the UV is set up. It moves it negative 0.5 this way and negative 0.5 this way so that it kind of centers it. So yeah, that's how that is set up. Here are the textures. Texture 0, funguar, repeat, add, max. There's not a texture color 2, nothing here, nothing here, nothing there, nothing there. A very basic, simple model particle. Now, we need to import the rest. So I'll duplicate and then replace with 2, duplicate, replace with 3, duplicate, replace with 4, so on, and so forth. And I will do that real quick and we'll be back. Okay, now we're back. So as you can see, I've got all 60 models imported from 0 to 59. So now I'm going to move on to the particles. So the first particle, I always make 2 frames. That's the value I give to its life, is 2 frames. And that is set to model 0. So I will duplicate that. The second one, I will make 1 frame. And I will change the model to 1. And then copy that so it'll make this new one 1 frame. And change the model to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, keep on going, duplicate, 8, 9, 10, and so on and so forth until I get every model, until every model has its own particle. And I will go ahead and do that, and we will return when I am done with that. Okay, so I have all 60 particles done. Now onto the emitter. So for the emitter, pretty basic settings too. Nothing really special. Set the rotation to basically fix the rotation of the model in Blender so that it's upright. Have the scale set to 4 just because it's usually kind of small. You can adjust that, but every particle that I've made now is getting imported into an emitter. Now, I usually keep the emitter limited to 30 particles total. And I find that's the easiest for it to handle, because this is a lot to throw into the game all at once. So I just keep it to 30 particles per emitter, and then I'll do multiple emitters. And I'll show you how to set those up so that it spawns the creature, but also keeps it on the ground in this case. So I will keep importing these. So I'll get all these imported, but the settings that I use also here, initial and always. And I just always set it to always. So I'm going to add some more points. 15, 16, 17. Oops. 18. Keep going until I have 30 total. So that would be 0 through 29. So 20, 21. Seven, 28, and 29. Okay, now set them to always. just go down the list here. Okay, now that those are set to always, now I have to delay them. So 29 for particle 29, 28, 27, 26, so on and so forth. This causes them to play in a sequence, like a flip book. Um, you know how a flip book animation has several, is several pages, and each frame or each page is a frame of animation, and it relies on the kind of blurring, the subtle changes between each page or each frame to create the animation. So that's why I call it a flip book visual effect. Uh, all right. So we've got 0 through 29. Go ahead and show what we have here. That's what we have so far. Okay, so before I do the rest of them, I'm going to show you how to make it so that it spawns on the target's damage circle, but always spawns on the ground relative to the target's damage circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a default emitter, and I'm going to have it spawn emitter 0, and I'm going to select all initial, no position. That's very important. So what this does is it means it always spawns with the rotation and the scale, even though there's no scale and there's no rotation, but it uses this emitter to orient the child emitter's rotation. So as you can see, it's now on the ground. Whereas if I just did emitter 0, it's slightly off the ground. See? It's slightly off the ground there. Emitter 1, on the ground. Also, I have some positioning on, I think, the binder. Yeah, the binder. So, like, to pull it off the target a bit. So this pulls it off the damage circle a bit to give it some space between the mushroom and the target. Oops. He's a bit big, so I'm going to do a scaling of, we'll say 3. How's 3? Yeah, not too in the way. So yeah, so it's not perfect. You're gonna see a little bit of bouncing and quick animations and everything. But with visual effects added in, that kind of blurs it a little bit, that kind of fudges it a little bit. And with the rest of the animations showing it completed, that'll also fix it. I also have some alpha on this emitter just for it, to kind of blend, like fade in and then fade out. So let me go ahead and do the other emitter, and I'll show you the finished product. Okay, so I have the second emitter set up. I'll go and add it to the parent emitter, and I have to give it a delay of 30 so that it plays after emitter 30 frames after emitter 0. Also have to set it to all initial, no position. Um, color, child color doesn't really make much of a difference here. Um, and then I also need to go in here, and for the model that is at the end of emitter 1 leading into emitter 2, I change its life to 2. So it kind of bridges the gap a bit better. So I'll go ahead and update that. Let's see what we got here. Okay. Oh, I have the color issues here. Okay, that's what's tripping me up. So I need to fix this, give it some fade out. So I change that to start at 25 and end at 30. And I'll copy that over here. Same thing. That should fix those issues. I think. All initial no position. Okay. Check emitter 2 again. Switch this out for emitter 2. What does emitter 2 look like on its own? Emitter 2 doesn't look like anything on its own. So what went wrong here? Oh, I forgot to sort it. That's where I messed up. Yeah. There we go. Okay, yeah. Remember to sort your uh, nodes. Okay, now switch back to emitter 1 so I have the positioning properly done. So like I said, there's some glitchiness to it, but when you add in the visual effects that will be surrounding it, it's much better. I'm also going to also give this to that evens it out a bit. And double check my models. Make sure nothing's freaking out. Okay. Yeah, that's how to do a flipbook style of visual effects. And I'll add, I'll of course add more visual effects around it, give it a spawn visual effect and everything. But yeah, that's basically how you can do a creature that has a bit more complex animations, getting around some of the limitations of morphing models. Anyways, enjoy. wanted to show the current product. I don't know if it's final yet. I always usually end up making some kind of change or addition, substitution, but just showing it with a bit of visual effects, how it's on the ground, some sound effects, the animation. But yeah, so that's a flip book visual effect.